which he called threatening and demeaning. He says he was told he would be expelled from the caucus if he did not get a vaccine by 5 o'clock today. And as we can see, he did not.
Barker, what are people in his riding saying about his decision?
Now, I did speak with the medical officer of health for Chatham-Kent, Dr. David Colby, and while he wouldn't comment on Nichols directly, he did say this. He said, "I'm 100% pro-vaccination, and I am of the opinion that people should get their health information from medical and scientific sources rather than from celebrities and politicians. No disrespect implied." And earlier this afternoon, I also spoke with some of the constituents in Chatham-Kent in his riding there about what they thought he should do.
Oh, I really don't mind. I'm not vaccinated myself yet.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not too sure about it yet, especially with this guy. I just don't know.
Okay.
But it doesn't bother me.
It doesn't bother you?
No, it's his choice.
He should actually be more influential in getting vaccines if that's what they're. Like, I'm fully vaccinated. Everyone I know is at my work, so this guy should be if he's going to be someone of importance to this community.
I think that the man should get the shots. My family in 1930 were killed. 3 out of 7 were killed by tuberculosis, analogous situation, no known cure. The other 3 went to the hospital. They forced you to go to Preventoria.
I think everybody should be vaccinated. That's all I think about it.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody should be vaccinated.
So just to go back to what the Premier said, he said that Nichols is no longer a part of the PC caucus, and he once again asked every single eligible Ontarian who has not yet received a vaccine to go out and get one. Chris.
Thanks, Jacob. CBC's Jacob Barker live in Leamington tonight. Let's take a look at what the COVID-19 situation is like in Chatham-Kent. There's around 68% of people with 1 dose of a vaccine. Now, those that are fully vaccinated, slightly lower. The total population, this is what those stats are for, and it's according to Public Health Ontario. Now, if we take a look at what's happening in Windsor, Essex, 51 new cases of COVID-19 today, 324 active outbreaks. Active cases and 7 outbreaks, and the vaccination rate there for us in Windsor, Essex, 78% of those 12 and older with 1 shot, 70% have both. Now, with vaccination rates up, the lone site in the county, that's the Nature Fresh Farms Recreation Center, it's going to close on Saturday. Devonshire Mall will remain open for vaccinations from 8 in the morning until 3:30. Walk-ins and appointments, they're still available. A Windsor teen's dream of winning a soccer scholarship in the U.S. is on the line. For the last few years, Avery Comartin has been playing for the elite club, the national team in Michigan. Now, until last year, when the pandemic closed the border, it prevented her from training and from playing. As the CBC's Katie Fraser explains, this is a crucial time for the young woman's path in the sport.
8th grade, we decided to make the move over to the States, where I would play for a team that would allow me to get a scholarship.
Avery Comartin says it's been her dream to play NCAA soccer and get a scholarship to a U.S. college. She's about to enter grade 12 at Holy Names High School in Windsor, and that means time is running out.
Last year, I don't think we realized how much exactly this would affect me.
Avery plays for an elite club team in Michigan, but since the pandemic began, she's been unable to cross the border to train or play. She's afraid her soccer dreams won't become a reality.
It was sad being away from the team and not being able to cross the border, but it's becoming very real this year. As we see girls my age starting to get scholarships and me still not being able to even play.
Right now, fully vaccinated Americans can cross into Canada. On the U.S. side, the non-essential travel policy expires in 2 days. What's next isn't clear, but it could still mean providing a negative COVID-19 test for every trip. That's another barrier for Avery and her family.
She was hoping grade 12, her final year, would be somewhat normal, see her friends, see her classmates. But to get the soccer dream, or keep that alive, she has to move and then be remote school, which would be just like the previous 2 years.
Avery's father, Chad, says there are other families in the same situation with little help.
We've definitely been reaching out, I think, starting in October of 2020, so about 10 months ago, talking with first the federal offices, Minister of Health, Minister of Public Safety. They're the ones that are involved in the travel restrictions and the border restrictions.
Chad says his daughter is left with few options: live away from her family and finish her final year remotely, which isn't ideal, or give up on her dream.
Either way, I think there is going to be a little disappointment because no matter what I pick, there are downfalls. If I go, I have to leave my family, my friends. I have to do online school again, which, I'm a fine student. I did well online, but it's not ideal. It's not what I like. But if I stay here, I miss soccer, so I think there's going to be disappointment either way.
Katie Fraser, CBC News, Windsor.
Provincial health coalitions across the country are calling for action from federal parties to make firm plans in supporting long-term care homes across their election campaigns. As Dan Takema reports, the coalitions want real change after the deaths of over 14,000 long-term care residents and staff in the pandemic's first two waves.
It is very frustrating because there are lives on the line.
Kathy Park's father, Paul, died of COVID-19 in April 2020. He lived at Orchard Villa in Pickering, hard hit during Wave 1. She spent nearly a year and a half fighting for changes to long-term care, but now, with an election around the corner, she feels let down.
There's been a lot of talk and a lot of promise, but no actual action.
Today, provincial health coalitions from across the country banded together and issued a call for just that: action, saying more than 14,000 residents in long-term care and retirement homes died during the first two waves of the pandemic, and pushing parties and leaders for legislated national long-term care standards that would mandate staffing levels, ensure oversight, and provide more federal funding.
The care in long-term care has never recovered from the pandemic.
Natalie Mira is executive director of the Ontario Health Coalition. She says the past year has seen empty promises, but no concrete change.
This should be a key election issue. There's some things that they mark the soul of a nation. And what kind of country are we if we let this go by, let this moment go by, and don't do anything about it?
Today, the Liberals pledged $9 billion in funding over 5 years to improve the quality and availability of long-term care beds. The NDP says it will work to develop national care standards and ensure homes aren't for profit. And the Conservatives are promising criminal code changes to protect seniors and to boost senior care benefits. The National Voice for Long-Term Care Providers says the pandemic has shone a spotlight on the sector.
We've never really had kind of the level of traction or attention that we have today.
It wants to see the next government fund operational costs at homes, help with a national approach to the strained workforce, and come up with measures to evaluate how standards are being met. Parks says change is long overdue and could save another family from pain and loss.
I don't want Dad's death to be in vain. I want it to be a catalyst for change.
She's hoping that change will start at the polls on September 20. Dan Takema, CBC News, Toronto.
An update tonight on a story that we brought you yesterday. The Ontario PC Party has responded to those party fundraising letters that look like invoices, quoting balances due of hundreds of dollars. Today, in a statement, the party says it wasn't their intention to mislead supporters. It reads, "We regret that the correspondence was sent to a limited group of supporters by one of our vendors and will not happen again. We apologize for any confusion or frustration this may have caused." The statement comes 2 days after media, including CBC, first reached out to the PC Party for a response. The OPP have said that they're looking into whether this may warrant a police investigation, and Canada Post says it's aware of the concerns raised and that it's looked into whether the letter meets all postal regulations. Windsor Mayor Drew Dilkens weighed in on issues he wants prioritized in the federal election, including funding for a new acute care hospital transitioning to an electric vehicle manufacturing region. But at least one councillor didn't fully agree with that list. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa has more.
In a Facebook post, Ward 3 councillor Reno Bordelin said that the mayor's list is missing two key issues: housing and transit. So today I'm hopping on a bus to talk directly to transit users about the federal election. Let's go. Is transit a priority for you in this federal election?
Oh, very much so. I find the buses in Windsor, they generally get to your stops on time. The problem is there's just not enough buses. It'd get you everywhere in just one shot.
Personally, why is it important to you to have good transit?
Well, if you can't afford a car and you have a job, it's going to make it awfully tough to get to work.
For me, yes, I don't own a vehicle, so yes, public transit is very important to me. Definitely keep it going. I mean, I've always heard some things about, like I've heard rumors about they want to cut public transit and some of those things, which I hope they don't. So I really hope that they'll continue to support public transit.
Councillor Bordelin also joined me on the bus. He says since transit is federally funded, it should be a top priority.
We need long-term funding plans because especially in a city like Windsor where we have grown our transit system and modernized our transit system, we still have a long way to go to where people rely on transit as opposed to using their own cars. All our routes have been piecemeal over the last 30 years, and we need to make major changes to our routes for efficiencies and better coverage for the entire community, but that's going to take an investment. That takes an investment of more buses, more people, and more operating dollars going forward.
We'll have to wait and see whether these concerns are voted for in the ballots. People will head to the polls in about 1 month. Jennifer Lagrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
Southwestern Ontario is home to some of the largest cannabis operations, but one small batch producer in Chatham-Kent has plans to grow out of their shadow. A look at 7 farms down as they prepare to hit in their first harvest.
To the Guttridge brothers, this is a field of dreams.
Knock on the door, we get it all the time. People say, what the heck are you up to? And it's like, well, I'm growing weed here. And they're like, well, is this legal? I said, well, yes, it is.
An outdoor operation surrounded by corn, but not hidden by it.
I mean, I can remember growing plants on the back roads here 20 years ago. So back home on a farm, working with plants, it's amazing.
Sitting just outside Merlin, past the public school the boys went to.
That would be our home farm right there.
Within sight of the farm they were born on.
People always say, oh, you know, they're probably not from around here. And, you know, it's these guys that are big investors from Bay Street. No, we're born and raised from around here. I've drove these county roads. I know exactly where I am. I know where north is, and I know where west is, and east and south. So this is our hometown.
The fields don't compare with the factory farms, those giant greenhouses, at least not by size.
So that's basically our open air extracts.
7 farms down hopes to hit the legal recreational market this fall, promising quality will separate them from the competition. Experts say big farms have a hard time selling their supply. The brothers grew this crop to hit higher levels of THC, the compound that gets users high. It's their sales pitch for success.
A lot of people seem to be pretty interested in our crop, so if you ain't growing the quality and the industry's full of low quality stuff, you ain't gonna sell it.
A big part of this is that hands-on approach. The next step in that will happen in September when they start to harvest the plants that they've been growing. And when that happens, it's going to require more people to come and work. That's another boost to the economy, something the hometown crew is happy to provide.
We started 2.5 years ago.
Standing on soil once used for sweet corn, the operation's master grower with an honest admission on changing to cannabis.
We first met some people and they said, look, we told them we're going to grow outdoors. They said, well, aren't you scared? And I said, yeah, we're terrified. I said, but we're farmers. You never have a problem if you have a solution.
So that's like the hand curated that you're not going to get a lot of places, right?
So far, nothing major to worry about. Happy to have a harvest in their sight, dreaming of one day selling product right at the gate.
People drive by slow on this highway, and normally people flew by on this highway, but people have a tendency to slow down, turn around the corner, and they're always peeking their shoulders out. So, you know, we're the way we are, we're farmers. Come on in. Hey, you want to see what the heck we're doing here? I'll tell you what we're doing. We're just growing a little bit of cannabis. This is how we did it, you know, like it's no secret what we're doing.
It's been a pretty tough year and a half for many. Those looking for a little inspiration, that answer could be right under your feet.
It started as something that I did just to pass the time. It was just something that I thought would be interesting to add to our neighborhood. At the beginning of the spring, you know, you're getting outside and doing all those different kind of outdoor activities, playing with the kids, and adding some chalk art to the sidewalk was just my way of beautifying the neighborhood, maybe adding some positive things. And I think it came at a time you know, the idea of adding a sort of inspirational message to it came about maybe as a response to the pandemic or some of the stresses that we had. It was maybe around the time that we were going into another lockdown and there was a lot of uncertainty back in the spring. And the first message that I wrote was, everything will be okay. And for me, that was the message that I wanted to send to the neighborhood. You know, we're all in this together. It's all going to be okay. I know there's a lot of uncertainty. It's a little nerve-wracking right now, but you know, we'll be all right. And my hope is that, you know, the message maybe will impact a few people in the neighborhood and maybe bring a smile to somebody's face. I think that I've seen people walking by, and as soon as they see the message, they just brighten up a little bit. And if that spurs them on to do something great for somebody else later in the day, then I feel like I've accomplished my goal.
We'll have to ask Colette Kennedy if that chalk art is going to stick around or if the rain comes to wash it away. Like it says, everything is temporary. She's up next with the forecast. We're bringing Colette Kennedy now, and I believe this is a chalk art forecast. Does it survive the night, that section of Windsor?
Yes, breathe, absolutely. But also, I would put, drink lots of fluids and all these kinds of things, all those things that I know they're common sense, but as we're going into a stretch with really warm conditions, we don't have a heat advisory here, but there are heat warnings over towards the Golden Horseshoe and on towards Eastern Ontario. And we are talking about some hot and sticky conditions for the next several days. Hey, it's very summer-like. If you've taken kind of this time off, this is a great time, I guess, if you like the summery weather, to enjoy it, because we've got a fine stretch of it and a lot of sunshine in there as well. Our current temperatures, upper 20s, and keeping in mind for that criteria, we need to see those daytime highs 30 and above, but also the overnight lows. It's a tag team thing, so the overnight lows need to be around 20 and above. Humidex values, again, we always have to think about, we see 40 for Humidex values, so 30, mid-30s isn't so much, but they are going to be creeping in that direction, and it really becomes oppressive for everyone. So we're trying to see some of these storms that were bubbling up, and they're just dying out here in Michigan, and the remnants of Fred, giving the heavy rain in the northeastern U.S., that was trying to push back into eastern Ontario, but it's been also pulling away. So here we are with the most that's happening tonight, perhaps a little bit of patchy fog development, and areas where that kind of hangs on in the morning before it burns off from the sun, that may just keep the numbers in terms of the temperatures from spiking as quickly in terms of what we'll be seeing. The slightest chance of an isolated shower tomorrow afternoon, greater chance, and that's not much even, is into eastern Ontario. I think we're going to stay dry and just with sunny conditions tomorrow. So let's look at where those numbers are. Very close, right, to that criteria. I have us at 19. We could see that heat warning get extended from other parts of the province into our neck of the woods. 30 for tomorrow for that high, but look at that Humidex value up from today, 39. And is that something? Just look through the period here. We are looking at, I don't have precipitation in here, but I think you're probably noticing those numbers as well, Chris.
Wow. Yeah, the copy and paste button broken again, eh?
Yeah, I know. Makes it easier.
It does, doesn't it? Thanks, Ms. Colette.
You're welcome.
Now, we've shown you the Olympics having these new sports, but now a skate park popping up in a place you may not expect. That's next. Justin Trudeau says Canadian soldiers are on the ground in Afghanistan, and 2 Canadian military aircraft will make regular flights into Kabul to bring Canadians and Afghans to safety. Dominic Velitis has more.
Today is Independence Day in Afghanistan, normally a national day of celebration marking the country's independence from Britain. And rallies have been taking place all over the country, and that has undoubtedly tested the Taliban, especially with people coming out onto the streets waving Afghanistan's national flag. And we've been getting reports today that several people have been killed at one such rally in Asadabad, which is in the east of the country. It's not immediately clear how they died, if it was from Taliban gunfire or from a stampede caused by it. But a similar situation happened yesterday in Jalalabad and a district of Paktia province, which again are both in the east of the country. And according to eyewitnesses and local media reports, Taliban fighters did open fire on protesters waving the Afghan national flag there. In Jalalabad, witnesses say the situation deteriorated when protesters took down the Taliban's infamous white flag and replaced it with the Afghan national flag. Meanwhile, Taliban militants have been out in force manning checkpoints in the capital, Kabul, today, especially on the roads leading to the airport. And we've been hearing reports of Afghans being turned away, even in some cases if people had the correct paperwork. And again, there were chaotic scenes at the airport as well. Large crowds of desperate people, lots of tension, gunmen firing into the air at several entrances to disperse crowds.
They looted the airport, the terminal. They broke everything that was in there, the computers, the canteens, and we were scared. We were not allowed to go out because Taliban was there, and on this side it was the American troops. So we were like, what are we going to do? Just stay here.
12 people are now known to have been killed in and around the airport, according to NATO and Taliban officials. Dominic Velitis, CBC News, Bristol, England.
It's a fast-moving sport with lots of twists, lots of turns, and that was certainly true at this competition. The biggest twist of all was where this was happening, the Eiffel Tower looming in the background, a giant skate park assembled next to the iconic tourist spot. About 3,500 fans coming out to cheer on their favorites. Several of the skateboard competitors, they were in Tokyo earlier this month to take part in the sport's Olympic debut. The next Summer Games, they're scheduled for Paris 2024. That's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. We're on social media too. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The Rick Mercer Report is up next. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.